Happy Independence Weekend. Welcome to the Camnet Breakfast. My name is Precious Mzea Sakaleji. I'm excited to be here because soon we'll be headed into the we're actually in the independence mode. I don't know about you, but as Camnet TV we are. And also I have seen quite a number of decorations in town. It looks so colorful and beautiful. The orange, green, black and red colors. And also yesterday we saw quite a number of schools celebrating Independence Day on a Friday, because on a Monday it's going to be a holiday, and also some institutions that took time to get into those African outfits, and also with some with the Zambian colors, but some with that traditional or African touch, just to celebrate or get into the independence mode. You can tell us how you spent your independence celebration yesterday as at your offices or maybe at school, and how it was. I saw quite a number of cute things on social media concerning the independence celebration, considering the fact that we have officially gotten into the weekend of independence. We saw the kids citing poems. We saw the schools actually having theaters for those old freedom fighters, drama and stuff like that. That actually reminded me of way back, but that actually reminded me of way back in high school where we used to have drama. I remember actually being in one of the comedies where we were just talking about freedom fighters for the likes of the late Zambia's Republican president, first Republican president, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. May so continue, rest in peace, and just a few freedom fighters that were actually put in the sketch. Hope you had a great time at school, if you had actually a celebration at school. And also I saw kids graduating from nursery to grade 1. Yeah, it actually makes me feel pretty old. But I still have memories of those days when we're actually moving from the other stage to the other stage, from nursery to actually grade 1. But anyways, let's quickly get into our topic of discussion for today. It's something that has been trending on social media and something that brought talks in the 2022 national budget, when the government actually proposed the pre-retirement benefits of the NAPSA withdrawal. So there has been talks, different concerns, and also different reactions from different stakeholders. But we'll have someone that will actually highlight more on that, and also maybe give you a retirement plan or how you can actually do that. And also I feel like the purpose for that was to have people partially withdraw the funds from NAPSA, because half the time when you have been doing your contributions with the institution, which is NAPSA, you will only get to access your money after retirement. So there was a proposal during the 2022 national budget, and which was for pre-retirement of the partial benefits. Now, we'll quickly get into that after that. We have quite a number of things outlined for you. Not forgetting, we'll also talk about the independence, preparations of the independence, and also congratulations to those of you that managed to fast during the 18th of October, National Day of Prayer and Fasting. It was good to see that different political parties actually participated in this particular national event. So let's quickly get into our first conversation of the day. Let's see what we have on the Health Corner.
Good morning. My name is Songiwe Chuluba from the Medical Women Association of Zambia, and we continue our topic for this week. Remember, our topic is sickle cell disease, and today we'll be looking at the signs and symptoms of sickle cell disease as well as the triggers of the disease. So signs and symptoms of sickle cell disease can be divided into the acute symptoms. These are the symptoms that usually take the patient to the hospital, as well as the chronic conditions that are usually seen throughout the patient's life. Okay, so remember, we're talking about sickle cell disease, which is, like we said from our last episode, it is an inherited disease that affects the red blood cells. It affects the hemoglobin that is found in the red blood cells, leading to production of an abnormal hemoglobin molecule. And this abnormal hemoglobin molecule is the one that is going to lead to the condition that is called sickle cell disease. Okay, so like I said, the signs and symptoms of sickle cell can either be the acute ones that usually lead the patient to the hospital, as well as the chronic signs and symptoms. So we'll start with the chronic signs and symptoms, which are seen throughout the patient's life. So firstly, these are patients that usually have yellowish looking eyes, and this is termed as jaundice. Okay? Apart from that, they also have chronic anemia, and symptoms of anemia that they're going to have include headache, fatigue, okay, as well as dizziness. Okay. Apart from this, they can also have what is called failure to thrive, and this can be seen in children that might not be developing at the same rate as other children in the same age group. Okay. Then, as for the acute category, the symptoms in the acute setting are usually divided into various crises that the patient can present with. Okay, and these include the vaso-occlusive crisis, which is the most common. Then there is the splenic sequestration crisis, the aplastic crisis, as well as the hemolytic crisis. So we're going to go through these one by one. So we'll start with the vaso-occlusive crisis, which is the most common. So vaso-occlusive crisis occurs when these sickled red blood cells block blood vessels. Okay, so remember, in sickle cell disease, the problem is the structure of the hemoglobin. So this abnormal hemoglobin, in certain circumstances, is going to lead to a change in the structure of the red blood cells, and they become sickle-shaped. Then because they have this abnormal shape, they're going to start clumping up together and start blocking small blood vessels that are found within our bodies. And when these blood vessels are closed up or clogged, this is what is going to lead to the vaso-occlusive crisis. Okay, so vaso-occlusive crisis, usually the patients who present in severe pain, and the pain is usually bone pain, because the common site for the vaso-occlusive crisis is in the bones. All right. Then apart from the vaso-occlusive crisis, these patients can also present with what is called aplastic crisis. So for the aplastic crisis, what happens is that these patients get an infection by a virus which is called parvovirus B19. So this virus, once contracted, goes to the bone marrow and leads to a reduction in the production of the red blood cells. Okay? And then because there's a reduction in the production of red blood cells, these patients are going to present with severe anemia. Okay? And the third crisis is what is called the splenic sequestration crisis. So in this case, blood starts to pool in the spleen, meaning a lot of blood starts to accumulate within the spleen. So because the blood is going to accumulate within the spleen within a short period of time, this is going to lead to symptoms of anemia, which, like I said, include headache, fatigue, dizziness. But then apart from this, is also going to present with symptoms of shock. Okay, which can be quite severe and might actually lead to the death of a patient. So symptoms of shock would include a deterioration in the level of consciousness, meaning this patient might suddenly become drowsy or lose consciousness. Apart from that, they might also present with a reduction in the blood pressure, and if you are to check the patient's pulse, okay, it also becomes very high. Okay, so this is yet another crisis in which a patient might present with in the acute setting. Apart from that, they can also present in a hyperhemolytic crisis. So during a hyperhemolytic crisis is an increased breakdown of the red blood cells. Okay, and then because there's an increased breakdown of the red blood cells, this patient again is going to present with anemia, because anemia results from the reduction in the number of red blood cells in this case. Okay, so these crises do not occur in isolation. It's possible to have one patient presenting with multiple of these crises or multiple symptoms from these four groups of crises, in which case it's going to be called a mixed presentation or a mixed crisis. Okay? So commonly patients with sickle cell disease are going to present with signs and symptoms around the age 3 to 6 months. They would present with their initial symptoms. Okay? Statistics actually show that about 30% of children are going to present with symptoms of sickle cell disease around the age of 3 months. While by the age of 6 years, most of these, about 90% of the children with sickle cell disease would have already presented with symptoms. And most commonly, the crisis that they're going to present with, or the symptoms that they're going to present with, are symptoms of the vaso-occlusive crisis. And there's a characteristic way in which they present, which is called the hand and foot syndrome. So this hand and foot syndrome is what is medically termed as dactylitis. This is where the patient will present with swelling of the fingers as well as the toes. Okay, this is because there's a vaso-occlusive crisis that's taking place in their fingers and in their toes. Okay, and when this happens, this is going to lead to swelling and severe pain in these regions of the body. Okay, so now we might also want to know the triggers. What are the things that would possibly lead a child to present with these signs and symptoms? So these triggers include things like dehydration. Okay, so there's dehydration, there's also acidosis, okay, as well as infections. So these infections could be any infections. It could be malaria, it could be a viral infection, it could be a bacterial infection. As long as there's an infection, it has a possibility of triggering these crises or the signs and symptoms of sickle cell disease. So we've come to the end of the segment of our program for today. Remember, this week we're discussing sickle cell disease, and we will continue with it tomorrow. My name is Songiwe Teresa Chilua, and I'm from the Medical Women's Association of Zambia.
Welcome back. Hope you've learned one or two things on our health corner. He was just talking about sickle cell. Now moving on to our second conversation of the day, which is the second segment. Let's take a look at how the dollar is doing and also how the kwacha is doing on the money market. Looking at our foreign exchange rates of today, the Great British Pound is buying at 17 kwacha 0.69 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha 0.4 ngwe. The United States dollar is buying at 15 kwacha 0.84 ngwe and selling at 16 kwacha 0.16 ngwe. The euro is buying at 15 kwacha 0.51 ngwe and selling at 15 kwacha 0.82 ngwe. South African rand is buying at 86 ngwe and selling at 88 ngwe. That is your foreign exchange rate as of today. Well, there you have it. Remember that you can come through on our Facebook platform for your comments regarding our topic of discussion, or you can come through on our platforms for anything that caught your attention in the course of the week. Not forgetting, you can hit us up on the numbers that are on your screen. Quickly getting into zooming into the headlines, the stories that caught our attention in the course of the week is that of a female bus driver that has a degree but decided to become a bus driver just to earn a living. This is the story.
She describes herself as a hustler. She starts work around 06 hours in the morning to start ferrying passengers from Minhood Mutumbi, where she stays with her husband and 4 children, to the central business district. She bought the minibus to venture into transport business and chose to drive it herself. You can tell that she's an experienced driver, having started driving 10 years ago. She has made samosas before, has a means to earn a living to support her husband and take care of their 4 children. She also owned several businesses and once worked for an insurance firm. How has she found herself in a men-dominated field?
Reason being, there are no jobs currently. I've been applying and couldn't find anything. So I thought instead of just staying home, I could be doing something. I looked at any other businesses and then they were not appealing. Okay, you'd think of clothes. There are a lot of people selling clothes. There's a lot of salaula. You'd think of maybe hairdressing. I can't do that. My hands can't plait. So the easiest for me, the quickest was driving passengers. I've tried to apply I'm a holder of, I'm a degree holder actually, business admin. I've worked for an insurance company, so I left because I wanted to go back to school. So after school, I tried to apply. I couldn't find any job. So especially looking at it to see that there are a few ladies who are doing this. But otherwise, the drivers, my fellow PSP drivers are kind of supportive.
She has advised young women not to wait and find formal jobs, but hustle if they want to have a meaningful life. She has also attributed the rise in road traffic accidents involving passenger minibuses that have led to fatalities to 40 minibuses that are on the road.
The belief is finding something to do, whatever your hands find it to do. That's a scripture, you can do it. So if it means, if one finds that they can plait hair, it doesn't matter how far they've gone into education, if they can't find a job formally, they can do anything that they want to do.
For now, she remains a bus driver, but quickly adds that you can never predict the future. Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
That's actually quite encouraging. We shouldn't all wait for the white-collar job just so we can earn a living. There are quite a number of business opportunities we can take up. I know someone there is just saying, Nanga kapiton zaicho sakuti. Well, we have, even though I'm saying this, currently we have the Constituency Development Fund. You need to create an initiative and then write up a proposal for how much you need to sustain your business and to start, and also what your payment plan is for paying back the money that you will get, because it will be more like of a loan. But currently I hear that's actually very difficult because the process is quite long and people are struggling to actually access the Constituency Development Fund. We'll actually have a topic to discuss that and how one can easily access the funds. But I feel it should be protected because not a lot of people are creating cooperatives just so they can get the money. Others are just doing it for the sake of just having access to the money. Others don't even have proper plans. They might have proper plans written down on their papers, but it's not really the purpose for the money. But anyways, we hope that those of you that are pushing for to have access to the Constituency Development Fund with your cooperatives, you will actually go through. Now, moving on, let's take a look at the story that was trending for the longest time. I feel it had actually dragged for the longest time, which was that of Mr. Bowman Lusambo and Joseph Malangi's nominations being refused to actually file in their nominations during the Kwacha and Kabushi by-elections because they were the cause of the vacancy. It had gone back and forth in courts. At some points, the elections were suspended. At some points, the elections were put on hold and stuff like that. But yesterday, finally, both constituencies the constituency managed to actually have their by-elections, but the story was that of voter apathy, and this is what happened.
21st October 2022, which was the new date set by the Electoral Commission of Zambia (ECZ) to hold the Kwacha and Kabushi by-elections, has come and gone, and the elections have been held despite debates on whether the elections would go on, as some political parties like the Opposition Patriotic Front were left out of the ballot following various court processes on whether fresh nominations should be held. This follows the Electoral Commission of Zambia in August 2022 refusing to accept the nominations of former Kabushi lawmaker Bowman Lusambo and former Kwacha lawmaker Joseph Malangi on the basis that they had caused the by-elections, citing Article 74(2) of the Republican Constitution. The voter turnout in the constituencies has however been low, a situation which Governance, Elections, Advocacy Research Services GEAR's Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi says was expected, given the court cases as well as misinformation that the elections would not go on.
Even the Electoral Commission of Zambia, because you saw that as late as yesterday, there were still court cases. So I don't think that they had even time to go and do voter education. Okay, it was very difficult for them. That's why even ballot papers, they had to hold on to see when are we going to be given that chance by the courts that go ahead. So there were so many factors that that could have contributed to what. But also, that should not be a big worry per se, and cannot make the elections, in any, make the elections any worse, because in a parliamentary arrangement, it's a simple majority. So even if out of 64,000, for example, for Kwacha, if 10,000 turn out and vote, that is enough. A winner will be elected out of those 10,000.
In a separate interview, Operation Young Vote Executive Director Gesh Nerenda notes that the campaign period for the two by-elections was almost non-existent due to the court cases.
So these are basically expected to compound this, voter turnout as it were. But for us, what we are saying is that, look, not turning out to vote or not turning up to vote is actually saying that the person that you don't want to be a leader, he should be a leader.
The contestants in the two by-elections are the UPND, the Leadership Movement, and two independent candidates. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
We're yet to find out who will actually scoop the seat in Kavushi and Kwacha constituency. Moving on to our next story that caught our attention in the course of the week is that of the gang, a group of young people. They're being tagged as a gang because of their behavior. They looted shops and actually created a mess in John Howard compound, and the people feel they have been neglected by the police because they feel nothing is being done about these criminal activities.
This is a protest over increased crime levels in Lusaka's John Howard compound area in Chawama constituency. These are the traces of the fracas that happened in the evening of Tuesday, 18th October 2022, as the gang culture emerges in this area. Some young people in this locality have resorted to illicit behavior, engaging in substance and alcohol abuse and terrorizing the residents. The gang looted shops and caused damages to property, and in one of the shops, they went away with 21 trays of eggs and bottles of cooking oil, a move that angered the residents who feel unprotected by the police. Young women and the elderly who have ventured into small businesses had their capital taken away by the unruly youths.
Mababu yonse kupwanya pa nyumba pamene chende kupeleka report ku polisi bakapokola tizefinga nyamukofra batichaina mansimbi bala mapanga ishili bakapokola zatitandiza munjira bwanyi na mfuno kuti chiteni yatu tifuneka baika kwa bakapokola batilondako majanki ya baka kuno kwa John Howard.
For Anton Banda, who owns a barber shop, he was not spared from the confusion as he lamented on his setback.
Tempa kuli government yanganeko tapempa please tapapata wevezinga chitis, but otherwise when angwesi tikazinga chifukushi zanga na problem this mwana ga sitifutika pano kuti tupeze kucha kurya chavana vatipe mtoka tipanga batipanyira.
The comprehension of losing the only source of income is what has brought agony to these people.
Tambo kupwanya tomato ya mene nenze nayo yonse kupwanya baterepu yonse kupwanya pano nje pamene ni majesera abana nomba ine batwaenda ku polisi bakapokola na kubwela kamba ikabyeni momune mkatepa umozi mubwere mchitichani mumulete ku polisi nomba ifoti na mpamvu bamabemba baleti bakate ku polisi tibapeleke ku polisi awe stinga bakwanise ise bakapokola ifoti dandaula balipe pamene basebenza kuno chikamela naendela ku training ni yanchani bacha banaenda ku training na experience basebenza nchito yao batitandizile community isatikatengenala mulo kumanja yetu asikamba tistili bino boma yanganepo. Enough is enough.
The residents feel the police in the area are failing on their duty to safeguard life and property.
Tanzania kuno ku John Howard tavutika majanki bavuta ba polisi balepela ngati ba polisi balepela balete masoja because kuli muntu amene avutisisa maningi amene atuma banzake ndiye boss kuno mwamvera vonse babavichitika kuno ali muntu kyekoza ungati umozi.
We engaged the Zambia Police Public Relations Unit, which assured to follow up the matter to the latter. Ponsidio Piri is John Award Ward 3 councillor. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Getting into our next story that caught attention in the course of the week is that of the announcement that was made in one of the newspapers where the Zambia Correctional Service was actually looking for warders and wardresses. We saw quite a number of young people queuing up at the headquarters just to put in their application letters.
All roads are leading to the Zambia Correctional Service Regional Command Office housed at Central Statistical Office building. Youths armed with brown envelopes containing application letters for job vacancies for the position of warders and wardresses to serve in Zambian prisons besieged the premises in the hope of being recruited. The inside building ground had a snaking queue of youths eagerly waiting to submit their application in person as one of their requirements. The huge turnout of youths has exposed the youth unemployment levels in the country. In random interviews, most of the youths spoken to indicated that they had completed their senior secondary education some years ago and had been doing all manner of odd jobs. They are optimistic that they will be successful and get jobs in the correctional service.
I completed my school in 2016. I was in normal secondary school. And the day the president posted, that's when I saw that that advert on yeah.
The age limit, you need to have a grade 12 certificate or grade 12 or the statement of results that you need to have. And NRC yet.
The advertisement, I saw it on 17th October on a Daily Mail newspaper.
Okay.
Yes, and the age limit is about from 18 to 25, and I fall in the same age limit.
Okay. Have you always been wanting to be a warder?
Yes, since my childhood, I've been dreaming of becoming one of the forces, the defenses, and my aim is country at large.
It was good.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good.
When did you finish school?
I did complete my G12 2017.
Okay. What have you been doing?
I've been working under a construction company as a scaffolder.
And being a prison warder, is this something that you are dreaming of doing?
Yeah, I've been dreaming about it since my childhood. You know, being a police is one of my goals.
Okay. And you believe that you'll be successful?
I hope, and I believe, I trust I'll be chosen.
Zambia is a country of young people with the majority of the population under the age of 18. The Zambia youth employment rate for 2019 was at 25.47%. In Zambia, a youth is described as any person aged between 15 and 35 years of age. However, one of the requirements for the job application is for persons between 18 and 25 years. This has not sat well with many Zambians. Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
All the best to everybody that applied and those that are still applying for the Zambia Correctional Service job that was vacant, and for warders and wardresses that is currently in progress. So there is recruitment going on, in case that you don't know, at the Zambia Correctional Services for warders and wardresses. Try your luck. There, you just look around on social media, you'll find a paper of the rural areas that are actually vacant for those positions. Now, quickly moving on is that of, well, we saw GCEs actually writing their exams in August, and Well, good enough. Some made it, some didn't. But for those that didn't make it, you can still try again next year. Don't give up. Let's keep pushing. So now the thing is that there are those that you need to combine your results, okay? There are those that feel they will need to combine their results, and you have actually access to do that. But the only problem is how to actually get that done. There has been a complaint of people that managed to go through to the Education Council of Zambia to actually just get that done. And also there has been a complaint of the e-statements. People are unable to access the old results, but they're able to access the GCEs. So here is how it went.
This is the Examination Council of Zambia ECZ Service Center in Lusaka, where some citizens who have been trying to verify or combine the grade 12 results say they have been coming for days but with no success due to long queues. The situation has caused murmurs among the crowds, alleging that some come without queuing up and yet are attended to, alleging that the situation is creating room for corrupt practices. Some, like this man, say they come as early as 4 in the morning, but this does not mean they will be successful, as other people are more ambitious, meaning that they come earlier, making those that come at 4 in the morning late comers.
We've been here for 04 hours. We are even now powerless. We don't have anything to eat. Otherwise, the government has to see how we are struggling. We have to expand this institution because at least we have got at least more than 4 headquarters. We would have been making this line. Otherwise, we are standing here. You've come around 04 hours. Yesterday 04 hours, today 04 hours, until now.
Others have called for more manpower at the service center, hoping that this will speed up the process.
So, like for me, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. There's no way I can come here just to verify or to combine the results. Since starting from 6 hours, moving away from this place maybe 17 hours, maybe I've not even done what I wanted to do. It's porous for me. We want these things to change. We want these things to change. We don't want like what used to happen in a previous government where, you know, people dish out money.
Yesterday, then you wanna come back to Bajababwela festival in Bemazina, Basieko Mazina. So I don't know, Kapena ni corruption or what. Kurifutiba na Gwen's Babuseni, Valembesa Mazina, but it's Vetina Mazina yesterday, but Tuesday, my forms, Pepe Tina Siapo Mazina, Shtabandi, Yasova. Then if we speak out, but kuseni munga kuseni nzotiofya notiofya kutisa kuitanana wakapokora have got every right kuti munga in the time millions emufuna cause me here nabwera kuma 05 and this is 14 sinadye chiri chonse but I don't know what they are doing inside vangochita process slow.
I think we just want the queue. I don't know what you can do for us. You can help us in any ways so that the queues can start moving, because we don't know, maybe they're just paying. I don't know what they're doing inside there. Otherwise we are tired. We've been here for 3 days. Yes, I just came here for the verification.
Meanwhile, ECZ Public Relations Manager Nicholas Nkua, while dispelling accusations of corruption at ECZ, asked that the process cannot be done speedily as it has to be done correctly to the latter.
And we will not be pushed as ECZ to do a service that is hurried, because we are dealing with sensitive matters, and we don't want anyone to leave our offices with something that is not genuine. So first and foremost, our process of verification is very stringent, and we make sure that we check records. That's number one, because we want to make sure that whoever goes out with correct results. And there are people who may want to take advantage to push us to do the wrong thing, but we will not bow to that. And I want to dispel the suggestion that there is room for corruption at our offices. The process that we undertake to do verification is not something that one person does. So if it has to take corruption, then everyone has to be involved.
He also notes that many people have a habit of flocking to Lusaka for the process, further urging them to take advantage of service centers across the country, stating that the process has been decentralized. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
You're still watching the Camnet Breakfast. Good morning to you that's just joined us. You haven't missed much yet because we're just getting into the main body of the breakfast show. Now quickly, let's take a look at what we have on our social media platform. The topic of discussion was posted there. Now this one is coming from Abraham Pillsbury Kakumbi, and he says it's a good move, but most of the employers don't take money to NAPSA. And then this one is coming from Bupe Daniel, and he says NAPSA will run out of necessary capital to inject in Zambia's economy. Martin Chitalu says it's a great move. Bali is a genuine leader who, with no lies, I believe even the issue of Mukula timber will be looked into. This one is coming from Evans Kayombo, and he says it is a good move and we congratulate the New Dawn government for that. Peter Daniels says for now NAPSA may well be looked upon as another form of tax. We need such progress. In future we should discuss bringing other pension providers on board to directly compete with NAPSA. And Joseph Zeneth Kolala says how many people who got money after 20 years who are living a good life, and I think it just depends on someone's mind, because even though you give after 50 years, if the mind is empty, still nothing can work. My opinion is that it depends with the person who gets the money. Thank you so much. Valerie Mukosha says it's a great move. Mwansa Emmanuel says best move by the government, congrats. Regan Shipe Kesa says it's a good move. Fidelis Mofia says good move, and Andy Agreat Zulu said yesterday I saw them, I thought it was a protest. Or this comment comes in as of that of the Education Council of Zambia, where people were actually gathered. The last comment, they thought it was a protest. No, it's not a protest. Actually, people wanting to combine their results. Well, thank you so much to everybody that came through on our Facebook platform and just commented on our topic of discussion. Remember that you can also be part of the conversation. All you need to do is just go to our Facebook platform and comment, or feel free to call us directly in the studio. Our topic of discussion is, what is your take on NAPSA'S pre-retirement partial benefits withdrawal of funds? Now let's quickly just get into this. Since we are in the independence mode activated, let's just have a musical break, and then later on we get into our conversation of today. Good morning.
Inenalichulile mwebana bandi, inenalichulile mwebana bandi, bakufwaya fe mwikale wino, bakufwaya fe mwikale wino, inenalichulile mwebana bandi, Moshaleya mwebana bandi, bakufwaya fe mwikale wino, bakufwaya fe mwikale wino. Awe inena kana, nikasumnyomulopa awe nakana, nikasumnyomulopa awe nakana, nikasumnyomulopa awe nakana, nikale kabana bakachule, nikale kabana bakachule nakana, nikale kabana bakachule, nikale kabana bakachule nakana. Mukasungane Zambia wino, mukasungane Zambia wino. Nami chichile chalo ichamutende nganshi, nalilwilile nkomdo upakupoko utungwa, ichibeimba chitila mwikala patalala mwina patalalika mwikalete ntulubunti bali baimwe nakane mpasase bali imwe mumulukane Zambia ane usulule mali luhanile luhanile mali luhanile nyawasi mweyana ya mwene kaleta bana bakachule nangane nite mwanene mwikalekana kaleta bana bakachule kasungane
One Zambia, one nation should forever be your motto. Remain united as one, created in God's image. And above all, remember, love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Mukasungane Zambia, we know. Mukasungane Zambia, we know. Mukasungane, Mukasungane Zambia, Nati Zambia, Mukasungane, Mukasungane Zambia, Tekwensha kulwa Mukasungane, Mukasungane Zambia, Mukutende na mishila Musungane, Mukasungane Zambia, Rino. Inne mumweo wandina lisalo kuwombela bayawe nangunaya. Nefwaya lesakatile mawombeni. Inne mumweo wandina lisalo kuwombela bayawe nangunaya. Nefwaya lesakatile mawombeni. Awe nefwaya lesakatile. Nefwaya lesakatile mawombeni nangunaya. Nefwaya lesakatile mawombeni. Wakamwike yo mwingilo wa mute. Nefwaya lesakalande mawombeni nangunaya. Nefwaya lesakalande mawombeni. Awe nefwaya lesakatile. Nefwaya lesakatile mawombeni.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Camnet Breakfast. Our topic of discussion as usual. What is your take on the pre-retirement partial benefits withdrawal of funds at NAPSA? Now remember that you can come through via Facebook, or you can call us directly on the numbers that are scrolling on your screen. Now joining me on set is a member of the National Union of Public and Private Educators of Zambia, Mr. Mwale, and he is the General Secretary, that his position. So we're just here to highlight more on the issues that are currently pending, that of NAPSA, and also the issue at the Education Council of Zambia. And also we are here to do some comparisons of other pension institutions. And remember that if you have any questions for him, you can come through via Facebook, or you can directly call us right here on set. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much, Sister Patricia. And, how are you?
I'm doing. You've just called it by my sister's name, but anyway,
well,
Precious
Sister
Patricia Simpson.
Precious, yeah. And good morning, our wonderful viewers out there. Thank you so much.
Let's quickly get into the itching conversation that's currently going on, which is that of the pre-retirement proposal that was given in the 2022 budget, where people would actually have access to their benefits from NAPSA, and now it is there. So now we're just waiting on how the outline will be and how you are able to access those funds. Let's talk about what your take is on that.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Precious. Well, allow me to make a mention that the National Pension Scheme Authority, NAPSA, Act number 40 of 1996 has been in existence for quite some time, both in the public and private sector. And so, apart from NAPSA, the public sector has also had the Public Service Pensions Fund, PSFP. So these are actually pension schemes that our workers have been using. But suffice to mention, Precious, that there's been an outcry wherever we've gone to have meetings with the membership. In the general civil service, so to say, there's been an outcry that this bill, this piece of legislation must be subjected to an amendment because it's very unfriendly. It's not sitting well with the workers. Imagine you work for as many as 30 years, okay, only to be told to say you cannot access the lump sum amount which you can use. Otherwise, we'll keep giving you maybe between 2,500 to 3,000 kwacha per month until you answer, your Lord's call. You die. That's when you stop receiving that. So I think it's been very, very unfriendly. And our members countrywide actually have been talking about it. And in many meetings that we've had with government, I think as unions and as a labor movement in general, we've not kept quite Precious. We've kept reminding government to say this piece of legislation is actually very unfriendly. In law, we would call it maybe repugnant. It's a cake. It's not friendly. It's not helping anyone. But to the contrary, the Public Service Pensions Fund has been very, very friendly. This NAPSA, scheme came in somewhere around 2000. So whoever began work around 2000, coming up, has been, with NAPSA. Has been with NAPSA. Some of us that began work, like for me, I began work in 1999, and I'm with Public Service Pensions Fund. Yeah. So people have simply been saying this law is very, very unfriendly. Successive governments have been told about this, but regrettably a number of them have given it a deaf ear, and I'm so grateful that the new Dawn administration has finally decided to push for an amendment of this piece of legislation. And having said that, Precious, I want to take this opportunity to call upon, the members of Parliament to vote for the amendment of this bill, unanimously. It just deserves a unanimous vote. It just has to pass through. I know wherever they are representing, wherever they are coming from their constituencies, I'm sure the outcry of the workers has been the same, to say we need a lump sum. And so when government brought in the partial benefits to us as a labor movement, we said, I think this is good. And I want to mention to you, Precious, that we are receiving calls where some people are calling for also the amendment of the Public Service Pensions Fund bill. That even us that began work slightly longer than those that began in 2000 with Public Service Pensions Fund, we also must have a partial benefit, because this life is short, Precious. It's better if I deserve an 800,000 after retirement, I get my 300. Okay, of course, I may have a plot already somewhere in Shantumbu, somewhere in Chongwe. That 300,000, I'll inject it there, and it will go a long way for the benefit of myself and posterity, that is my children out there. Yeah.
Let's talk about the other pension. Let's do a comparison of the other pension institutions.
Yeah.
Not to talk about which one is better, but a different way that they can both contribute to this movement.
Fine. Allow me also to make a mention. I'm so grateful that you've asked that question, Precious. The percentage contribution, by the way, with Public Service Pensions Fund, the percentage contribution is about 7.25% coming from myself as an employee, and 7.25% coming from government as my employer, making it about 14.5%. That's a percentage contribution. For National Pension Scheme Authority, it's 5% from my employer towards my pension, and 5% from myself as an employee towards my pension. That is how it is. Now, the comparison you are referring to is that those of us, including myself who is speaking here, those of us that belong to the Public Service Pensions Fund, as the law stands, as the status quo is, I'll work until maybe 55. If that is, early retirement. If I want to go on normal retirement at 60, I'll work maybe up to 60 as the status quo stands. Okay? Then that's when I'll be given everything in totality. And I'm so grateful, Precious, that the new Dawn government has been, excellent on issues of retirees. I know of a big man that I worked with who just retired some 3 years ago. And he has gotten everything. He has gotten his package. And energetic as he is, he's able now to reinvest. Yes, to reinvest in his farm and so on and so forth. But for NAPSA, somebody just has to build a house before they retire. Just has to have some initiative. Otherwise, there's nowhere where they will access any lump sum as the law stands. And so that's why I'm saying, can this law be amended? Because when it is amended, it will be for the benefit of all of us as workers, and that will sit well with us. We will reduce the destitution that we are seeing. There's a lot of destitution that we are seeing. I think when we do that, that will be better. Because NAPSA, as it stands, is a the NAPSA Act, the NAPSA Act number 40 of 1986 is a very unfriendly piece of legislation.
Okay, before we close the conversation on NAPSA, is there anything else that you'd love to add on before we move on to another discussion?
Yeah, maybe what I would say is our prayer, and a continued prayer, is that this bill passes. Okay? When it passes, NAPSA, from grapevine information, I've been seeing via social media where NAPSA simply said, we have enough money.
They're able to actually pay people.
So for the would-be beneficiaries, can these resources be put to good use? That may be that may not be the right time to get that very advanced curved screen television. That may not be time for going for a latest vehicle in town. I think there's no room for that. This money must be reinvested and reinvested with wisdom.
Okay, now before we actually move on to the second one, there is a talk about the National Pension Scheme Authority having a competitor. Do you think another one should come through so that they directly compete, or for now we can just hang on to NAPSA and see how best we can work around with the institution?
Yeah, for me, I would say NAPSA, as it stands, yes, it's a world of competition, Precious. We have no right to chase out any competitor that would come on board. But as it stands, I think NAPSA is in the right position to do the right thing. But maybe a caution to NAPSA itself, Precious, we've seen them, I wouldn't call it investing wrongly. NAPSA has missed priorities. We've seen them putting up expensive houses in both Lusaka and Kalulushi, which the actual contributor, who is our member, cannot afford to buy, cannot afford to rent. Okay? I've seen them investing in big, their investments like, Levy More, and I'm sure even Edgar Chagwa Lungu More in Kitwe. I stand to be corrected if all those belong to NAPSA, but we've seen them investing in those. What we are calling upon them is that when this, bill is enacted finally as law, okay, can the NAPSA, invest with serious priorities that will benefit our people, not, houses that our people cannot even afford. If you went to those houses that they've been building, it's only the so-called the upper mwamba, the elite, that are able to buy. A simple man like me, I may struggle to get one. Yeah.
Okay, so now, Mr. Mwale, let's talk about one of the things that has caught your attention currently. We can get into the political atmosphere as well. Anything that you feel should be talked about and is not getting enough voice from the general public?
Yeah, for me, Precious, you asked me many times, I would tell you that I will not sit here and see morals erode, erosion of morals. And that's why we are calling upon for the reforms in our curriculum so that there's morality enshrined in the curriculum. The homosexuality, the LGBTQ issues that we are seeing are ungodly. And you'd ask me as many times as possible, I would tell you that those activities are ungodly, and a right reasoning Zambian citizen must say no to acts of lesbianism, must say no to acts of homosexuality. They stink, to say the least.
Okay.
They stink.
That's all.
Yeah.
Let's go to let's move now. We get into the education fraternity and this struggle, which is actually very sad. The struggle of seeing people line up at the Education Council of Zambia. Examination Council. Vanson if he sees it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Examination Council of Zambia, and just for them to combine their results. There has been an issue of where you go online, the Examination Council of Zambia portal, just for you to access your old results. You are unable to. Someone who wrote their exams in 2013 or 2012 are unable to access their exams. Hence them going to line up just so they can combine their results. So now the question from the people is, if we're unable to have access to such things, for you to just get those results, which will probably take you some days, even weeks, because of the queues. So what is your take on that? What do you think the Examination Council of Zambia?
Precious, allow me to mention that actually Dr. Chinala, Director ICZ, is a close friend of mine. Yeah, and many are the times that he's mentioned that they are seriously considering serious decentralization. I think there is an ECZ center in Kitwe. For Lusaka, we have it in Woodlands. I wouldn't talk much about the other areas where I have not seen, but they are heading towards decentralization. But maybe our appeal to them is that can they expedite the decentralization process, because I want to agree with you, the queues that I've been seeing in Woodlands and even in Kitwe leave a lot to be desired. And at one time, even when COVID was at its highest peak, we saw queues of that nature. Not only that, a person that finished school in 1993, like myself, I'm told I cannot access my results via the portal. Yeah. So I think those are issues that they must work on. If it means, ECZ calling us, we are still alive to say, comrades, those of you who finished a long time ago, can you come on board, bring your results so that we enter them in the system? I think I'll be the first person on the queue. Yeah, I'll be the first person on the queue, because right now, imagine I lost my certificate.
And you have no way of funding it.
Somebody will simply say, Mr. Mwale, you cannot stand in Chipangali as a member of parliament when you retire because you don't have your grade 12. Yeah? I'll talk about Chipangali because that's where I come from, precious. Somebody would say, you can't stand, Mr. Mwale, even if you have retired. You can't. You don't have a grade 12 certificate. You see? So, can the examination council expedite? Like I said, Dr. Chirala is a good friend of mine. He's been talking about decentralization. And can they expedite? If it means, using part of the, budgetary allocation to education towards the decentralization of ECZ, can it be done? Because the queues that we've been seeing leave a lot to be desired. I would want a situation where possibly in one province there are even 2 or 3 centers. I think for a start that cannot be bad there, precious. Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, generally speaking, I think the performance of ECZ is quite good. The trajectory they are on is actually positive. Yeah.
Okay, moving on, another discussion. We have a lot to talk about, so we're catching up from the last time you were actually here, and also looking at the current situation. Yeah. We have finally gotten into the independence mode.
Yes.
What is your say to someone that's watching out there as we head into, we'll call it a long holiday because it's on a Monday.
Indeed. Independence is on Monday, 24th October. Precious, my language will not change. I'll tell you that if I had an opportunity, okay, I would go for that independence that we enjoyed in those days, where our teachers in schools could actually tell us to contribute whatever small towards a Coca-Cola, so that we celebrate together, so that we play music. As coming from Chipangali, there was a Gule wa Mkuru, Nyao dances. Every 24th October, we could, watch those dances and celebrate together, even with our parents, so that we are reminded on independence. And I want to make a mention, Precious, that you cannot talk about the freedoms and liberties we are enjoying after independence without mentioning a teacher.
True.
Last time I was here, I did make a mention. For the viewers that did not have the opportunity to watch, I did make a mention that Kenneth Kaunda was actually a teacher. Simon Mwansakapwepwe was actually a teacher. John Mwanakat, one of the main writers of our education books, was actually a teacher. Our comrade in the neighboring country, Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, was actually teaching here in, at Shalimbana there. So all those played in the liberation struggle that led to the independence that we are enjoying now. And so when I hear of people talking about independence without the mention of a teacher, my heart bleeds. My heart bleeds because teachers contributed a lot towards independence. And that is how you saw that Kaunda's cabinet, 2/3 were teachers. And that is the glory that we want to get, because our teachers were held in high esteem. And so you can't celebrate, independence without talking about a teacher. And so I'm calling upon the new donor administration to one day think of getting this independence into schools, so that it's not really a holiday for the children. It's a day for them to go back to their schools, celebrate with their teachers, drink a bottle of cocoa, and then enjoy and maybe have a bite of a piece of chicken. So that
as per tradition.
Yes, as per tradition, as per tradition. In Eastern Province, where I come from, they will tell you that you can prepare very nice pork, very nice beef for me, Precious, when I come to visit you. But I may not hold you in high esteem if you do not prepare me chicken. On a lighter note,
Okay, Mr. Mwale, before I actually let you go, any closing remarks?
I want to applaud the new Dawn administration for the massive recruitment of our workers, the teachers, and indeed our workers in the health sector. But my appeal to the new Dawn administration is to do much on infrastructure development in terms of accommodation. You've been hearing of such stories that two children were burnt, teachers have run away because there's no accommodation and so on. So what we don't want is the 30,000 employed teachers to run away from those places, because at the end of the day, they need to survive. They are human beings. And so if infrastructure is improved in those places, I'm sure they will not move out. I'm one of those that began actually teaching in a rural area, and I survived because maybe I was lucky. There was a bit of accommodation where I was, but we've seen a number of them that are actually calling to say, well, sir, are you Mr. Amwale, the General Secretary in Upezi? I have nowhere to stay. I'm a newly recruited teacher. I'm here in Shangombo. I'm here in Chairman, so on. So we want to, to see a situation where there's accommodation. And allow me also, before I waste much of your time, Precious, to call upon Ampondamatike, our friends with money, so that they go into PPP, public-private partnership, so that at the end of the day, they are able to build houses in these areas, simple ones, so that our people are able to rent, so that the crisis of accommodation is arrested. We want to see, going forward, government, can they put up accommodation for teachers like they did for men and women in uniform? They are enjoying. They are enjoying. So what about a teacher? Remember, you can have a lawyer, you can have an engineer, you can have, a medical doctor, but they cannot exist without passing through the hands of a teacher.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Marley. Well, for those of you that have just joining us, well, unfortunately, you have actually come to the dying minute of the show. We're just having a conversation with the General Secretary from the National Union of Public and Private Sector Educators of Zambia, Mr. Amwale. We're just highlighting more in a few issues, and I would love to say thank you to you that actually stayed glued to the show, and everybody that came through to comment on our Facebook platform, and for those of you that actually took time to that have been taking time on Saturdays to watch The Breakfast Show. Well, from me, Precious Mzea Sakaleji, and also on behalf of Isaac Chifita on the other side, it's good morning and have a beautiful day. Happy Independence Weekend. Bye-bye.